So we've just come off the canning, and as a first timer I wanted to give my impressions. So apparently less than 1,000 people travel the canning per year. So I think a lot of people out there would be first timers or would be wanting to know what they're going to experience when they get there. So some of the things that I observed was, of course, the corrugations. They were in some places massive, in some places making the car feel like you're in a massage chair. We played around with speeds, with tyre pressures, and we found what was right for us. I would definitely recommend doing a little research on how to drive corrugations, maybe a little practice before you head to the canning, because there are rarely breaks between corrugations. Another thing that really amazed me was the differing terrain. So at one point it felt like we had crossed a continent in just one day. There were flat, rocky areas. Next minute we were on these gigantic sand dunes. There were sands colour of pink, colour of orange, colour of sunburnt red. I just couldn't believe how many different areas in the canning looked so different. Also because we had received a lot of rain recently, not while we were on the canning, but before we headed onto it. There was so much lush greenery. I was just shocked that in a desert you would find so much green. So many beautiful flowers as well. I don't know how so many plants thrive in such a dry, hot, arid area, but I guess nature evolves, and it was just beautiful. We saw pink flowers, we saw yellow flowers. I learned so many things about plants, and Pat was a great teacher as well. Pat pointed out all the flora and fauna, and I was learning so much just being a passenger in the F-150. So I also had the privilege of traveling in 2 different vehicles. I was in the Everest with Josh for some of it, and then I was in the F-150 with Pat. It was great to experience the difference between being in a longer wheelbase vehicle and a shorter wheelbase vehicle. Not everyone obviously has the privilege of transferring between different vehicles if you're in a convoy. It was just great, I guess, to experience that. Both cars are running Outback arm suspension, but given the different structures of the vehicles, it was a different experience altogether. So I went in blind. I actually had no idea about the history of the canning stock route, which you may think was a disadvantage, but it was actually great to learn it all on the go. It was really cool to learn how it was created, how Alfred Canning forged this route, but also equally as cool to see how it's evolved from what was once a need to travel the cattle through to a fun experience for four-wheel drivers. So it is now renowned as a four-wheel drive track, and most four-wheel drivers will aim toward doing something as difficult and testing and long as the canning stock route. And I just think that's really cool how it's transformed from being what it was historically to now what it remains today, and I guess what it'll become in the future. I think if I had to give a piece of advice after my experience, it would be that unless you are super confident in your abilities and your vehicle and your recovery, I wouldn't do it solo. I would always do it in a convoy, at least 2 people. That way if you get stuck, someone's going to help you recover. And also, it's very hot, it's very dry, it's very arid. If you get stuck there, I just think it would be my worst nightmare, to be honest. We actually came across another traveller who had been stuck, and they waited for other people to come past, which on the canning is quite rare. They were actually lucky to find someone in the same day, and those people were saying it took them 2.5 hours to recover these people. And I think just for your own safety, your own peace of mind, I would always travel in a convoy with people you trust, with other experienced four-wheel drivers. It's also a great way to share the experience with others. It was nice. The crew and I would sit around the campfire and just reflect on what we'd seen that day, what we'd learned, all the things that we had filmed, and I just think as a group, it's both safer and more enjoyable. Another thing that I was amazed by was the fact that there are people living in the desert, the Martu people living traditionally in their communities in the desert. I'm amazed at their ability to withstand the heat. We didn't unfortunately come across any of them on our travels, but if you do, just remember this is Aboriginal sacred land. These are these people's homes and communities, and to be respectful if you do come across those people. I would love to say so many more things about the canning, but I think I might put in an article in the Pat Callanan 4x4 digital magazine. If you don't have a subscription to that one, sign up. I have so many thoughts after being a first timer, and I can't wait to share them.